Could you give us some one or two stories that really struck your mind or moved you to write?
One that will stay with me forever is when I went to this house. Oh dear.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll take it.
Is that the one? The one you were telling us about when we were...
Yeah. You know, she had her husband's blood and flesh splattered on his wall. The wall. And she asked us in and offered us tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard to imagine how people cope with that situation.
And she was able to talk and tell what happened. It was just so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I can just imagine. It's hard for us with this side to even think.
If you
and she said that morning as well, you know, her husband's been dead for a while and they buried him, but she was still finding bits of his flesh because a phosphorus bomb, it was a tank that shot into the house and the whole wall was blasted. And they said, as they were cleaning up today, they found bits of his flesh and his ears and bones and stuff. And then her son came and pointed down there because we can see through the blasted wall. He said, oh, I buried my dad's ears and his bones and bits of his flesh down there. And I said, where? And then he just picked up one of the debris, kind of a rock, and he just threw, and we saw a mound, and that was bits of him. And then her daughter, one of her daughters was standing by the bedroom door, and there are two bombs. One was the phosphorus, the other was the normal bomb, but it was huge because he was splattered everywhere. It's not just, you know, he was splattered there, and then right until here you can see the blood and the stains, you know, all over the wall. And the daughter was at the corridor, and half her body was blown up, eaten by the phosphorus bomb, and she was taken to Egypt. And the other daughter, her eyes, her hair, skin, everything was burnt. And again, she was in Egypt, and she sat, the mother sat with us, showing us pictures and telling us of how the daughters gave her a surprise birthday party, and you know, she was just recollecting. And she said, I asked her, where do you find your strength? And she said, I have to be strong for my other children, and life has to go on, she said.
Yeah, that's really sad. Dr. Azlina, apart from treating patients, you also have to deal with this psychology of psyching them up. And
trying to keep them positive is not, you know, those who, most were positive anyway, but there were some that, you know, you could tell they were affected by it. There was one child we saw in the hospital. She had some pains, but we couldn't really get very much information from her. And the mother said that basically she had stopped speaking since the bomb started. And she was about 9. You know, she used to love to draw. She used to, you know, quite a chatty child, good in school, but now she's very withdrawn, refuses to pick up a pencil, doesn't talk, doesn't say very much. And that is actually one of the difficulties, I think, trying to bring children up, you know, in trying to see the happiness again, make them be children again, and not very easy. And towards the end, what a lot of doctors asked, the local doctors, and we realized they needed it, psychological support, psychiatric support. I think that would have been very helpful. I think nothing in your medical training really prepares you for this scope of you know, devastation and depression and what have you. I mean, you learn a little bit, but you know how you know, it was, in that sense for us, it was a little difficult to relate, just because we've not seen that before. Most in our team were fairly new. I myself, this trip to Gaza was the second trip for Mercy, with Mercy, and you know, and we had 2 very senior veteran ones, so they had obviously not much problems. But the 4 of us, the remaining 4 of us, you know, I found it a little bit difficult, I think. But at the same time, you cannot show disappointment. You cannot show like, oh, I'm feeling down too, because whatever that we have, actually, we are extremely lucky. No matter, you know, what we what we see and we complain about when we're back home and all that. And I think once you realize that how lucky we are, and in your mind you just go like, look, I have to focus and keep the patients as upbeat as I can. I may be bleeding inside, but you know, outside you have to show a positive face so they may feel better. And sometimes it's not, you don't have to do anything really high flying, you know, high tech type thing to treat them and all that. It's just a smile, a chat, play with the kids, that sort of thing. And eventually you'll get a smile out of it. You get, you know, you get patients to relate to you, and you know, a bit more understanding.
Yeah, but when you come out of the hospital to go back to your hotels, that's when it really hits you.
Yeah, it sort of hits us when we go home, and then
usually when you leave, you know, when you leave Gaza, then it hits you. Not when you're inside, because you can't afford.
You can't afford you can't afford to let your guard down, really. And for most of us, I didn't realize this at first, but you know, I thought I was sleeping very well while I was in Gaza. I don't think so, because the moment I touched down in KL, all I wanted to do was sleep. And it took me a good 5 days or so before, you know, I was really up and about, back to normal. And you know, you're right, you can't just relax, you know, while you're there. You think you are, but actually you're not. Again, we were very fortunate. The group that we were in, you know, lots of jokers, and you know, we helped to liven things up once we reached home, because no point being all serious and, you know, upset about all sorts of things. Some of these things are things which we cannot control, right? It's beyond our control, really. So you know, no point getting all upset, because when you are upset, you know, makes yourself sick, and it can get to a point where you can't even treat your patients. Then you know, the one who suffers is not really you alone. You affect other people. And so in that sense, your focus must be strong. You must realize that you are here mainly for the people of Gaza. You're not here for some glamour trip or, you know, just sightseeing sort of thing to see what things are like. For us as doctors, certainly we maintain our focus just by saying that we are here for the people of Gaza. That's it.
But there's so many kids there, you know, 56% of the population are kids. They have like, families have like 5, 6, 10 kids. That's very normal. So, you know, of the
10 kids.
Yeah,
the largest I heard was 13.
Yeah, very possible. So some families, you know, they lost just like that 70 family members because they live in like extended families. And one of the horrors is when you go to places and then you talk to them about how they were trapped in these houses and the ambulances couldn't get there because the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, were shooting the ambulances. So some of them, they waited like for 4 days before help could get there, and they kept calling. I spoke to the Palestinian Red Crescent people, and they said they only managed to get to 30% of the calls on time, just 30%. And they said that by the time they got to places, you know, and then they found that because these people were calling and said, oh, my dad's been hit, you know, can you come and help? And then they try to get there, but they were being shot at, so they can't reach the place. And so they said by the time they got there, they found all of them, including the person who made the call, dead.
Some of the difficult things that we have to face. And you were saying something about leaving Gaza. One of the hardest things for you was when you had to come home.
I mean, because when you're in there, you're doing your job as a journalist, so you want to tell the stories, so you can't afford emotions, you know, you're just going around, and the people, like you said, the people are very strong, very resilient, really. It's just so amazing, you know. They don't have cooking gas, really, they don't have cooking gas.
And they cook with kerosene.
They cook with kerosene, they cook with firewood, they cook with, when there's electricity, they cook with electricity. And I brought some pictures for you. There was like a long queue of cooking gas. They were waiting there since the ceasefire, waiting for cooking gas because the tunnels were been bombed. There's no, it's a blockade, so there's no cooking gas coming in.
So what do y'all eat?
Oh, lots of good food.
There was food there for them to eat because they grow. You see, they grow things. But they don't have gas to cook, so they find a way. For us, you know, food costs about 100. Equivalent to 100 ringgit for 3 people to eat. For anywhere you eat, you know, that's very expensive. Normal people, they can't eat in restaurants. The restaurants have generators, so they can cook. So I mean, we are okay. We can get by, but
the regular people,
families,
But having said that, you know, it's difficult for them to get by. Wherever we went, they were so hospitable. We visited a family where, you know, the house was pretty small. I think it's smaller than this studio. And there were 5 of us, and the dining table was so full of food, there was no place to even put our dinner plate, you know, to eat. And there were trays and trays of food. You could easily imagine that this food could have fed this family for a good 2 weeks. Really, you know, and they gave all out to us. I mean, that's how hospitable and kind they are, so generous.
Right now, the crisis is not, I think, a food crisis because Gaza is very fertile, so they can grow food. But what is the problem is that a lot of houses have been hit. So what I saw was flat land, you know, there was, flat land. So there were like no houses, you know, the houses were all just flattened, and then people just put up like little tents or whatever. And the problem, or some of their houses, like, you know, there were holes and stuff blown out and windows all blown. And remember, mind you, it's winter, so 5 degrees at night. So they're sleeping inside cold. They have not even plastic sheets to cover because the borders are closed. These things are not coming in. No glasses to seal back the thing. Nothing. No bricks. And they also bombed the factories as well.
The cement factory nearby, you know. So
cement, tiles, all the factories were, great number were destroyed.